Hello, my name is Matt Krieger. I work for Schneider Electric. I want to say thank you to Cochrane Supply for inviting Schneider Electric to be part of the Cochrane Smart Building Seminar Series. Also, thank you for taking time to take a look at the video. This presentation is going to focus on the Schneider Electric Viconics Technologies 8650 series room controllers. Schneider Electric is the parent company of Viconics Technologies. The 8650 series controllers are so much more than a thermostat for rooftop units and heat pumps. We refer to them as room controllers. For the next 30 minutes, we will explore what these controllers can do, how the 8650 series is a smart choice for lower cost installations when compared to traditional DVC controllers, why they're a great choice for smart buildings, why they have a great look on the wall, and finally, the flexibility to meet non-standard applications. Essentially, the 8650 series controllers are a DVC controller on the wall with a color touchscreen interface. They're so much more than a thermostat. '8650 series controllers are used to control rooftop units and heat pumps, basically any packaged units that have a fan and heating and cooling operations. These controllers have an embedded sequence of operations to control 1 heat, 1 cool, 2 heat, 2 cool, modulating heat, 2 cool rooftop units, or 3 heat, 2 cool heat pump equipment. They have an output for a single speed fan and a built-in output for economizer operation. The 8650 controls come with a temperature sensor and a humidity sensor for dehumidification or for monitoring. There's an option for an onboard occupancy sensor as well. The controller itself has 7 inputs in addition to the onboard sensors or hardwired sensors, like a supply temperature sensor or a remote space temperature sensor, fan proving switch, dirty filter switch, as well as inputs for an airflow measuring station. The controllers also have the option for communicating to battery-powered wireless sensors for temperature, humidity, CO2, occupancy, as well as door and window switches. It has a binary output that follows occupancy and a binary output to enable dehumidification. Each controller has an onboard time clock and schedule. They use low voltage to power the controllers. The 8650 series room controllers are typically found on units that are installed in all types of facilities, from small to large, hospitality to education to healthcare to office and retail. Basically anywhere packaged rooftop units and heat pumps are installed. 8650 series room controllers are configurable devices. They have an embedded sequence of operations that are tailored for rooftop and heat pump applications. Configuring the device is done through the touchscreen interface, so there's no software required, there's no licensing fees, and there's no downloading required. It's ready to use out of the box. Accessing the configuration pages is done by pressing the top portion of the screen. This will take the user to 2 pages of setup that include configuring the operation of the device, network settings if connected to a network, configuring the set points, configuring the display, setting the time clock and schedule, associating wireless sensors, as well as commissioning operations. The 8650 series controllers can save you money when compared to traditional DVC installations. As I mentioned, there's no software licensing required. One device is mounted on the wall as compared to installing a controller in the control enclosure and mounting a separate temperature sensing device on the wall, or multiple if you need humidity, CO2, or occupancy sensing. The configuration is done through the touchscreen interface, so engineering doesn't have to create a program that has to be downloaded to the controller. No computer is required. Configuration is simple and straightforward, so technicians or electricians of all skill levels can configure and install the room controller. In the end, saving time and skill adds up to a lower total installed cost. Here's a look at all the options that are available on the 8650 series room controller out of the box. Notice this controller has 7 inputs and 9 outputs that are used based upon the way in which the installer configures the room controller. Inputs can be configured for operations like fan proving, window and door switches, dirty filter, or general service notifications. An input can be used for a remote CO2 sensor. However, there are options for an onboard CO2 sensor or wireless CO2 sensor. An onboard sensor would provide you with temperature, humidity, occupancy, and CO2 sensing all in one box on the wall. A remote space temperature sensor supply air sensor, outdoor air temperature sensor, and airflow measuring station inputs are available. As I mentioned, you can configure the 8650 to be a rooftop unit controller or heat pump controller. When used as a heat pump, the reversing valve can be configured for O or B. So you can have a 1 heat, 1 cool, 2 heat, 2 cool, or modulating heat, 2 cool rooftop unit, or a 3 heat, 2 cool heat pump. There's an analog output for economizer operation, analog output for modulating gas control, and a contact closure for dehumidification operation. Just to reiterate, one part number has all of this configuration flexibility. There's not one part number for RTU, a different part number for heat pump. One part number can be configured for any of the above mix of inputs and outputs. The test outputs and service view screens are great ways to verify the installation is performed correctly. Service view provides values of the attached sensors, the outputs from the heating and cooling proportional integral loops, if there's any alarms, like an open window, dirty filter, or general service alarm. Basically, it's a way to view what's going on inside the controller without the use of a computer or commissioning software. Test outputs will verify wiring and operation for heating stages, cooling stages, fan, reversing valve, economizer, etc. Kind of like a handoff auto switch. Electricians and technicians can use this to verify correct wiring to the outputs has been performed. There's no need to fake out the controller by changing set points to force heating or cooling operations to begin. After a 2-minute timeout or navigating to other 8650 screens, we'll set the unit back to the proper output, so you don't have to worry about leaving any setting in override. Knowing the unit is functioning correctly provides confidence that you won't have to revisit the site or revisit the unit to make wiring connections. The VT8650 room controllers are a great choice for all the smart building construction and retrofitting going on these days. In addition to the onboard time clock and schedule, every room controller has BACnet MSTP communication. The devices are BACnet testing labs tested and listed. There's around 500 points or so in each controller that can be read or written to by virtually every BACnet supervisory system on the market. These 8650 series room controllers also have the capability to communicate via Modbus RTU. So if you run across an existing installation that's got a Modbus network, there's no need to run a new trunk for BACnet. Just toggle the communications on the controller to Modbus and add it to the network. ZigBee Pro Wireless is also a communication option. ZigBee is a wireless protocol that is a wireless self-healing mesh network. It would eliminate daisy chain hardwiring like a BACnet MSTP or Modbus network. It involves the use of a coordinator that creates a wireless personal area network, or PAN, that the controllers join and use to communicate. The coordinator can be a standalone device, as it does have scheduling, trending, and alarming capabilities, or it can be connected via Ethernet cable to a supervisory device that communicates BACnet IP. You can connect 20 to 25 of the 8650 controllers to each coordinator. The communication bubbles can be anywhere from 50 feet in diameter to 250 feet in diameter, depending upon the construction of the facility. ZigBee installations are well suited to locations where the cost of wiring is expensive or where the facility may undergo renovation changes periodically. When they change the configuration of the facility, there's no need to reroute the communication bus. Additionally, they're great for retrofit situations where the owners would like to have a network, but the construction is not suited to fishing communication wire. Think of installations that are architecturally important, like museums or historical sites, locations that may have asbestos in the walls, or locations that cannot endure extensive downtime, like hotels that can't rent their rooms if work is being done. The 8650 controllers can come with ZigBee communications embedded in the device or added later via communication card installation. So construction can be performed in steps if there's budgetary constraints. First, add the room controllers, then at a later date, add the wireless communication cards and coordinators. The 8650 controllers also support the addition of a Wi-Fi communication card. This allows the room controller to connect to a Wi-Fi network router and can be used in standalone applications or connected to a building management system. In a standalone application, the 8650 can be configured to notify or alert the appropriate parties via email of malfunctions, like temperature, humidity, CO2 values that are out of range, or if there's been a fan-proof fault or a dirty filter alarm. A building management system or supervisory device is not required. Essentially, this lets you know of a problem so you can react or perform the necessary maintenance. In larger installations, Wi-Fi can be used to speak BACnet IP to a building management supervisory device. The benefits to this style of installation is that quite often there's an existing Wi-Fi router in place that can be used. Also, the communication between the room controllers and the supervisory device is much faster than BACnet MSTP. So all of today's analysis and analytics programs can act and react in a more rapid manner. Similar to ZigBee, using Wi-Fi communications allow for network installation in a building that is not suited to traditional daisy chain hardwired network installation. Energy saving opportunities are another aspect of the 8650 room controllers that make them a great choice for smart buildings. Traditional thermostats typically use on-off control strategy, that's pictured on the right side of the screen. When the space temperature rises above or drops below set point, the heating or cooling comes on and does not turn off until reaching set point. The result is overshoot, where the space is overheated or overcooled. This leads to wasted energy, not to mention uncomfortable occupants and more wear and tear on the mechanical equipment. The 8650 series room controllers employ a proportional integral, or PI, control loop. This means that over time, the loop will tune to the space requirements, keeping the space temperature closer to set point, reducing the overshoot. This translates into more comfortable occupants, higher efficiency, less energy use, and less wear and tear on the mechanical equipment. Employing the use of additional sensors can also help to save energy. As we saw in previous slides, sensors can be hardwired, but the 8650 room controllers can support 10 wireless sensors. Temperature and humidity sensors for remote sensing, averaging, or high-low signal select. Remote door or window contacts, if the window is open, disable the heating and cooling functions until the window is closed. Water leak detectors, and occupancy sensors. The sensors can have up to 10 years of battery life and use standard off-the-shelf batteries. Using these hardwired, embedded, or remote wireless occupancy sensors, or using multiple sensors to measure from different locations has shown to reduce energy costs from 10 to 30%. These sensors are all passive infrared, or PIR sensors. They can detect motion as well as heat. The 8650 room controllers have 3 set points: unoccupied, standby, and occupied. When the controllers sense motion, they control to the occupied set point. If no motion is detected for a user-defined period of time, the room controllers will change from occupied set point to standby set point and begin another timer. If no motion is detected for that user-defined period of time, the room controllers will change from standby set points to unoccupied set points. If at any time motion is detected, the controller will revert to controlling to occupied set points once again. There's no need to condition a space to occupied set points when there is no occupancy. Standby allows for that drift from occupied set points so that the equipment will not have to make up as large of a temperature delta once the occupants are in the space. Again, the standby and unoccupied timer periods are user-defined and adjustable from 1/2 hour to 24 hours. With all of the functionality and flexibility built into the 8650 series room controllers, we tend to forget that this controller is what the user sees in the space. These room controllers look great on the wall. There's 2 brands, the Schneider Electric version and the Viconics version. The Schneider Electric version, which begins with the letters SE8650, comes with a white case and white fascia, or silver case and silver fascia. Alternate fascias are available to fit a multitude of installations where aesthetics have to be perfect. There's versions of wood grain, glossy, and even aluminum. The Viconics version, which begins with the letters VT8650, only comes in a unified white face, fascia, and case combination. With either model, multiple background colors can be selected. Again, background colors can be selected from the touchscreen configuration pages, and there's even a BACnet point that can be commanded from a supervisory system. The displays are configurable as well. The full display shows space temperature and set point adjust. There's a heat symbol for heating mode, snowflake for cooling mode. Fan operation is displayed by the fan symbol. When all 3 segments are lit, the fan is on. You can choose to display the date and time, which buttons appear on the top, on the bottom of the screen for operation, for instance, the mode button for heat and cool, fan button for fan speed, degrees C, degrees F button, language button, and help button. Many times buttons are removed to limit the control occupants have over the operation of the equipment. You can also just choose to display the outdoor air temperature, humidity, or CO2 level. The 8650 controllers support short and long backnet messages. The short messages, here displayed as Zoom 1705, supports up to 33-character message that can be anything from a welcome message, which piece of equipment the room controller is connected to, like fan coil 237, or even an active value. Maybe you might want to display the supply air temperature on the face of the controller. This is also the area where alerts are displayed, like window open, dirty filter, or service alarm. The long backnet message takes over the entire screen. It's typically used for messages letting the occupant know of an event happening in the facility, like a meet and greet happy hour at a hospitality installation, or maybe a warning, like shelter in place message in an educational or commercial installation. The 8650 room controller also supports loading a standby image or screensaver image. This can be any bitmap style image. You can choose to display this image when the screen has not been touched for 2.5 minutes. This image can be anything from a school mascot to display school pride, to an image of the building or surrounding city, to a solid image that helps the controller to blend in more successfully with the wall on which it is installed. These room controllers also support just about 20 different languages. In today's global economy, there's people from all over the planet vacationing and working throughout the U.S. Access to the configuration screens or to any of the buttons on the touchscreen can be password protected, so access can be denied to those who have an inquisitive nature. Hopefully, we've got a hardware design and interface that looks as great on the wall as the horsepower under the covers for today's smart buildings. The final aspect of these room controllers that I'd like to touch on is for those of you who have installations that require more functionality than what is built into the standard configuration and sequence of operations. Typically, the built-in operations of the 8650 controller will meet any rooftop unit or heat pump control type of installation. But there's always an installation or an engineer who wants to do more. These controllers are capable of more because if you need to, they can be programmed to build upon the standard sequence or change the styles of inputs and outputs. As I mentioned earlier, these controllers have 7 inputs and 9 outputs that get used up as you configure the device. The 7 inputs are universal, meaning they can be temperature inputs, binary inputs, or active 0 to 10 volt DC inputs. Of the 9 outputs, 5 of them are binary, but 4 of them are universal. They can be on-off or a modulating 0 to 10 volt output. With program, you can change a binary input to a temperature input or to a 0 to 10 volt input. You can change a binary output to a modulating one. You can add stages of cooling or heating, add an outdoor air humidity sensor for enthalpy-based economizer, power exhaust. How about modulating heating and cooling? You can average multiple sensors to control a larger space. You could incorporate an input from a card reader in hospitality installations. You can even customize the touchscreen buttons for special functionality. We've got a library of over 2,000 programs that are modifications we've worked on over the last couple of years. So please ask your Cochrane representative if you're looking for functionality above and beyond what comes out of the box. The actual programming language is called Lua. It's a free programming language, and you can visit lua.org to learn more. So if you want to write your own programs, that's up to you. The software tool to write and view the programs is just a text editor, Notepad++, which is free on the internet. Finally, the software tool to connect the room controllers to download a program, upgrade or change firmware, load a custom standby image, or configure multiple controllers is called Uploader 8000, and that is free on our website. All you really need to purchase is a USB to micro USB cable available at any retail electronics store. Here's just a quick look at some of the models that are available. Base models come with a temperature and humidity sensor, a temperature, humidity, and built-in occupancy sensor, a temperature, humidity, occupancy, and built-in ZigBee communications. Notice there is the white and silver options in the Schneider offering. There's also add-on accessories for onboard CO2 sensing, ZigBee communications, as well as Wi-Fi communications. All installation, configuration, commissioning documentation, and supporting collateral is available on our Schneider Electric or Viconics website. Myself, along with the Cochrane staff, is ready to assist with any questions you may have about any Schneider or Viconics product. The 8650 series controllers are so much more than a thermostat. They're a smart choice for today's smart buildings. They offer a lower total installed cost, they look great on the wall, and they have the communications and operational flexibility to meet today's equipment and engineering requirements. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, Matt, for all of your information you shared with us today. And again, if you have any additional questions, you can contact your local Cochrane rep.